We want to learn how we can stay relevant, we can keep this pool open and moving for a long time to come. So that's why we went into this with the park board and the Board of Supervisors. So today is your opportunity to see some initial concepts and designs and kind of, voice your concerns, voice your feedback, kind of get an idea. We, as the park board, are looking to have more of these, more opportunities so that you, as the public, can be more involved with the future as we make decisions and move forward. So I just want to talk a little bit about some things that we're going to do this year based on some of your feedback, some smaller things. We're going to have adult-only seating near the lap pool based on your feedback. Just seating. I know there were some rumors about we're closing the whole lap pool and turning it into an adults-only pool. That is not true. We're going to add some side tables and spread out the chairs based on your feedback that the chairs were too close and you couldn't move around. We are going to add an adult night with a special menu, adults-only night, as we do for teens this year. We're going to have a second teen or tween night because it was very popular last year. We added Camp Good Vibes for the age group that kind of couldn't come into the pool last year because of the age change to accommodate that based on feedback, based on the change. We are improving Wi-Fi capability, so you'll have more capability and we can have more devices at any given time on the Wi-Fi this year based on feedback. We're making some safety modifications based on a safety assessment that we had done by our insurer. And we are also adding a parent-child class during the week. And these are all feedback-related changes. We're not making changes willy-nilly. We're making changes based on your feedback. 2019, we did the same. Some of it wasn't feedback-related, some of it was leak-related. We repaired the gutter system. We saved 200,000 gallons of water. We repaired the slide that was inoperable at the beginning of the season. We created a fast pass lane to make it easier for people who are members to get in. We improved our registration process so you don't absolutely have to come into the township building to register. You can scan your items in at home and send them in. And we adopted the 2018 Model Aquatic Health Code, and we changed our internal training so that we could better equip and empower our staff. These are all changes that we're making to make the pool better for you. And these are small changes that we're making year to year. You can give me feedback, not just for the feasibility study. You can give us feedback all the time, because we're always listening. So today, Aquatic Facility Design, Brent Boyer and Tom Reed are here to present to you their ideas based on some interviews that they've done with some key leaders, based on feedback that we've given them. And you can make some decisions and you can get up here and voice your concerns, or if you like things or don't like things, so that they can modify for a future presentation. So I'm going to give this mic up to Brent.
Thank you. I'll try to do good with this mic. I'm not used to microphones. But again, my name is Brent Boyer from Aquatic Facility Design. We're designers, planners for aquatic centers. We work nationally, but we're located in Pennsylvania. I can testify that what Monica said is true. It was from day one. There was never a discussion about closing your pool or selling it. We were retained to look into how could you improve it and carry it into the future. And to do that, we spent a lot of time on site measuring your pools, coming while you're open, watching it in operation, interviewing the staff and some supervisors and so on of what are the issues you're having. But today, keep in mind, as we go through these concepts, none of this is what is going to be done. This is only concepts for your review and the powers that be to review. These are only things that could be done. And you're here to give feedback and thought. Yes?
That seems to be a problem across the board with both school board and town. The powers that be are the people that vote in this town. It's not the people that are sitting on a board. They answer to us. And I think that's critically important that we get that. And I think a lot of things happen in this town without the input of the community at large.
Yeah.
And so another interesting thing is we have a professional staff who hired to run a pool, and I see from the school board, it doesn't seem anyone here has the knowledge. We're always hiring consultants, and I don't understand why.
Well,
let me address it. In this instance, we hired a consultant because He knows a lot more about pools across the nation than I would ever know, and he's also a third-party, non-biased opinion. And that's the reason why we brought someone from the outside in to assess the pool as an asset to our township so we can be it better and continue to have this asset into the future.
Well, does he tell us when he's getting paid to assess the pool?
Yeah, I don't actually totally...
I don't have the contract in front of me, but yes, I'd be glad to share that with you if you, send me your email and I'll send you the information.
I want to say around $30,000. There's a whole lot that goes into that. And the reason that they hired me and don't do this themselves is because you couldn't reasonably expect them to know how to do this. How to change your infrastructure and build things and what's feasible is its own art form and architecture. And I don't know what the...
I'm different. So I work for Disney. You had to know that at the parks. You didn't bring people in. That was part of your team. And we run multiple parks, a pool. We run a pool at our school system. I would think this knowledge is in-house already. But you've answered the question. Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't presume to know how Disney works, but I'd be surprised if the people running the rides know how to build the rides. And that's kind of the difference we're talking here, perhaps, is how do you build these things? So that's why they hired us. And I don't know the history here. I can tell you that the reason you're here is that the supervisors and so on and the staff respect the public, and this is being held just to hear your views. So I don't think it would be, fair to them to say that they don't want to hear from that. That's the whole point of you guys being here, is because we'll go through this and then you tell us at the end what you think of different aspects and the future of it.
Sure. Yeah. At the end today, there'll be a moment where you can come up to the podium. You can give feedback. You can ask questions. I would keep questions about this presentation specifically. Anything outside of this presentation that is pool related that you'd like to bring up, for instance, you want to extend hours or anything like that, we have feedback forms for you in the back of the room that you can fill out. But exactly that, we really want to get the public involved. I don't think we've really done this before, but that's where we're headed. This is what we want.
And I'll just say one last thing. I'm not elected here, but I'm elected in my town as a councilman. So I fully appreciate that you work for the people. I don't really get paid in my job as a councilman in my little town, but serving the people is what it's all about. So I very much appreciate that.
About 3 years ago, the CDC and many others started a model aquatics health standard. It's not law yet unless it's adopted, but it looks pretty promising, and it suggests a lot of physical types of changes beyond the safety things with the drains and all that stuff. Have you built those into the concepts you're presenting tonight?
I don't know if I can tell you that I know everything the CDC is thinking of in the future, but I know some of the things they're thinking of, and I know that what the health codes and sanitary standards are here and nationwide. And as we would propose any changes, all of those things are taken into account, yes. If it just looks pretty and it's fun to splash in, but it's not sanitary, it's no good for anyone. So those things are at the forefront of any design. This stage, and I'm not, that is a very important aspect, but at this stage, don't forget, you're just kind of looking at models of layouts of how could you change it and make it more user-friendly. And then those types of things are designed in later. That's another phase, but at that point, they're all considered. And the staff also asks us as we go, if we see any health issues, we certainly point those out at this point, yes. Okay, so we'll start going through this. I'm just kind of going to give an overview of some of the issues you're having with your current complex, and then we'll go into other concepts. I won't belabor you with too many details, but we have all the details. So when we get to the end, we'll come back and you can ask specific questions you have. Okay, Thomas, you want to? Here's your existing facility. I may ask some of the staff to jump in as we go. Currently, you have your competition-style pool. You have 25-meter course. Here on your intermediate pool, we call this the long course swimming. You have a 75-meter swimming lanes, and you have 25 meter. You have the 2 slides which enter in. In this pool, it's kind of it's another secondary intermediate pool.
We actually addressed this one as the Olympic pool, and it's a 50-meter long course with a 25-meter.
Yes. Yes, thank you. And Thomas, water depth in this pool, we're going from...
Water depth's what's called the leisure pool. We start at 2.6 at the stair entry end, which is on the right end of this slide, and we go to 4 feet on the left end at the center gathering point.
Right. Here's your children's pool. Currently you have a user capability of 1,498 users. Okay, on many of your days, your total user load exceeds that number. It may not be all at one time, but throughout the day, you'll have a total patrons that are in excess of that. So overcrowding is one of your issues. What seems to be happening is that when these slides were added into this portion of the pool, you lost a lot of your intermediate swimming area. People crowd in here. When you're down below here, there's not much to do, not much activities. This pool, really no amenities at all. It's used for multiple ages, but it's geared more towards younger in its design. And the wading pool you use basically for children in diapers. So these 2 pools, there's no ADA access, there's no ADA entry, no beach entry in either of these pools. No real amenities except the spray feature in this pool. In this pool, a lot of overcrowding, again, not much activity, and in this pool, you can do lap swimming and so on, but not a lot of activity. So the idea moving forward was, how do we give you more space and more usable space so that everyone in the family or different ages have a place to go and place to swim. So can we, let's go to the next slide. Our designers, we came up with a color palette for these designs. We wanted to keep the character of your complex. Some of the features as you go through as we get through the features are more on the level of a low-level water park, but we're not trying to turn it into a water park. We wanted to have more features, more things to do, but also keep it the flavor that it is now. It's a community family facility. So the designs are all keeping that in mind, to keep that tone. So our theory in moving forward is to break it up into more usage zones. Here you can see, now this is, of course, is still your existing complex, but this would be more competition. This we're keeping as an intermediate pool. We're going to be turning this into a waiting area for children, and this into more of an adult area, because right now we understand that a lot of adults congregate down here, perhaps in an effort to stay away from the others. And yes, ma'am.
Okay, that area is adult, and the adults are there because they are either swimming laps or they're utilizing one lane exclusively for exercise and walking. So
In this pool you're talking about? correct?
yes,
Yes.
and it's not. It's not a.
No,
I
and
want to take those away because those are reasons that people join the pool.
yeah, but hold that thought till the end, because we're not taking them away. But we understand that those uses go on there. But we also understand there's a bit of a congregation down here to keep a separate area. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. So what we were doing here, we're adding into this pool additional lanes. Your pool is already built to accommodate lanes running in the other direction. So we're using your infrastructure here and just adding additional lanes across, which gives you more options for lap swimming or for competition and so on.
How long is that distance going that way?
25 yards. You have 25 meters now.
How many lanes would fit?
I think we have 8 both ways, don't we, Thomas?
Yes.
Yeah, you have 8 both direction. Going this way, we stopped
Yeah.
at your stairs, of course. Jackie, you look like you want to say something.
May I?
Sure.
We currently have the capability of doing 8 lanes when we run meters, but we don't actually put in 8 lanes because we leave a double wide swim area. This actually, by doing it this way, will add an additional lane space, which is one of the things that a lot of our adult population was looking for to be able to swim laps.
Will you still be able to do walking after that?
So instead of dividing into adults and families, I'm an adult that swims laps, and I have kids, so I care about both.
Right. Well, that, I mean, I haven't seen this either, so let's let them continue.
Yeah, let's hold all questions till the end so you get the full idea and you understand completely. And then we'll go through all questions. We can flip back the slides however you need in the question and answer
Yeah.
section.
And when we say it's broken into zones, it doesn't mean that there's a fence there and you can't transition from one to the other. You can use any part of this. But it's designed to give more people more things to do in the different age groups. In this pool, what we did was here's your original footprint. We'll get to an overlay in a minute. But right here is your original footprint. We added stairs, we added this peninsula, and then we added a beach entry down so that you would walk from here, 0 entry, down into 3'6" or 3 foot of water, then down from 3 foot to 3'6" to this end of the pool. You also have handicap accessible rails. Right now you don't have any of those features. So you have more of a play space for older kids, more activity, keeping them out of this area. You have floatables, and we'll get to slides that show you these features in a minute. So you have larger play features, you have shade sails, you have the handicapped ramp, you have floatables, and these are animals or figures that float in the water that you try to climb up on. You can get up on, but they're a challenge, a lot of fun. And things to play on. This is a larger, wider, family-type slide. We got rid of your other slides in this concept. We have some concepts where we kept your big slides. Replaced it with this one. And this is a larger slide which empties into its own holding tank. So we have pictures of that as we go too. This is a water walk system, which you try to climb across ropes and balance yourself in the water. It's a lot of fun. It's difficult to do, but all these things are doable. Here we added a climbing wall. You retained your diving. This pool then, we got rid of your existing pool, and this is a pool meant just for small children, up to maybe age 5 or 6. So you have a beach entry ramp. There's a slide in it. There's spray features that you play on in the beach entry. There's a bench you can sit on. There's also a caregiver's lounge where there are lounge chairs that you sit in the water. You sit upright so you can watch the children. And there's shades to sit under. And all around here, you can see where there's seating and shading. This pool then is an adult-style pool. It has stairs that you walk down and an ADA ramp that you walk down. Then you can sit on the steps, or you're in 3'6" of water. And there is seating here, lounge-style seating, that you lay down on. You recline more as an adult. And that can be used as for fitness, for therapy, or just for recreation. So you can hold classes and so on in that pool.
How deep does that pool get?
This one,
Yeah,
that's 3'6".
that's the max.
That's the max depth, yes. This one, the max depth is 18 inches. And that's the max depth for wading pool and for children, and it works very well.
Did you say off the L-shaped pool, that back area is for kids too?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's geared towards bigger kids. You know, that would be,
Like how deep does that thing get?
what's that?
Like age?
Well, you know,
Here's one of the challenges, that sounds great in theory, but when you have kids of 4, 8, 10, you separate families and you have to have 2 people there to watch the kids. When you put a little kid pool and a big kid pool. Right.
Well, we are kind of, let's just wait until the end for our comments, please.
And we're aware of what you're saying, but it's hard at any facility if you have children of different ages to all have them in the same pool. You're at different levels here. We try to keep oversight, but that's always a challenge. If you have a 2-year-old and a 16-year-old, they're going to want to be in different places. But it's really tough to have one pool that does all that because the water depths are different and so on. So we try to keep that oversight and the flow through as good as we can, but it is broken into uses for that. Now you can roam through all of these, and we change the flow through. Here you're coming down through a large ramp down in these areas, or you can walk around this area and down steps. There are retaining walls and so on. So we try to keep the traffic patterns open and wide. And when I said older kids, this is also young adults and even adults that this is more geared to. Am I forgetting anything on this one, Thomas?
So how deep is that extra little rectangle in the gigantic pool?
Here.
How deep is that here?
You come down the ramp from 0 depth to 3 feet, and then you drop down in this little portion from 3 feet to 3 feet 6. Which is what the depth is currently. So you're going from beach down, working your way down into that pool.
Is there still as much room for chairs? Like you said that you're going to spread them out this year. These designs, I'm not getting a real sense for where
all these are chairs, but
all the red.
and all the red are chairs, and they're for representation. Now they're to scale, but we tried to increase the seating, and you actually went from, what was our user before, Thomas? 1,498 people to 1,983 people. So there's more things to do and more space to do it in, and we also retain, because we realize that money is also an issue. We kept this pool, and I'll get into numbers later, but this pool, you're doing very little too. You're just adding lanes. Here we put some bleacher seating too. You extended the sidewalk. And you have bleacher seating. This one, we retained all the infrastructure here and added on to it. These two pools we scrapped that are currently there because they're just not convertible at a price tag that makes any sense. You'd spend a lot of money and you still wouldn't have something that worked well. They're just out of date, and they're getting in poor condition in their age and so on. So these are total replacements. But we wanted to, because the staff and the township is not trying to be frivolous with your money either. These are things that we tried to reuse everything that you have that's good. And like you just did some gutter replacement. You would be able to use that over and so on. You're adding on to all these things.
Is the point of this we're at end of life on the current pool? Is that why we're doing this? Are we saying that the repair and maintain the pools is not feasible?
I just want to let you know, no one on camera can hear you when you ask questions out of turn, so I want you to understand that.
There's any background to this unless I missed it.
We are trying to remain relevant. What we know is that other townships are closing their pools because they didn't do the proper maintenance that they would need to do in the long term. Our pools are getting older, so we need to review all of our internal, external, and stay relevant so we can continue to have a good membership in the long run. So that's why we started to move forward with this project.
Can I ask just one quick question while you're there? Did we do an RFP for this and get multiple bids?
Yes, we've been working on this since 2017. This was RFP'd last January. Yes.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Okay, where were we? Thomas, we want to move on?
I have a quick question. In the Olympic pool, the 50 meter, will they now lose that 50-meter course because of the inputs of the different activities, or are those able to be pulled out? Like say when the swim team would want to be using 50 meter, or there are many adults that do swim sometimes that 50 meter.
That's a good point. Thank you, because I forgot to mention that.
Can you repeat the question into the microphone?
Sure. The question was, are these features in this pool taking away the competition or the long course swimming. These are all detachable. They're tethered to the floor. It does add some movement and a little bit of work that you would have to move them out of the way when you do that. This and these. Don't forget, all these things in these concepts are optional too. This is our very first showing at all the things we studied and all the things we were told and how do we solve all the problems that we were given. So you're trying to put a whole lot in. You have a big bag. I was going to say a little bag, but you have a little bag. But these things can be moved and moved out of the way. Now you lost 2 lanes here by doing this, but you gained all these other features. So that's what everyone has to weigh. Is do you feel that is a good swap? Yes, ma'am.
When you're saying tethered, you're saying when the swim team is swimming and not for the lap swimmers and the walkers that utilize that pool on a daily basis. So it's not just when the swim team is in-house, it is the entire day.
On this area, yes. But the idea then is that you have...
That doesn't help a lap swimmer at all. At all.
Can we just save the questions and comments for a minute? Sorry.
Some other options.
They've done a lot of work putting this together. I know we all have a lot of thoughts, which is fantastic, but I think that some questions may be answered, and there are certainly a lot of other concepts to get through.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's go to the overlay. Here you can see what's been done. What this color, orangey, is what is being added, and you can see behind it what is there currently. So what you're constructing to try to make these changes is not that vast in construction, but it results in a lot of landscaping changes and flow around the area. Okay, Thomas.
2?
Yeah.
Well, let me go back. As you can see in the overlay, there's a large grass area in the center.
Hold on. You gotta give them the microphone because they won't be able to hear. Sorry, Thomas.
I just
I wanna hear you too.
Now he won't talk anymore.
As you see on the overlay, there's a large grassy area in the center in the existing complex. If we page back one, that grass area has been taken over by a new concrete deck area, which does expand that seating area. There's additional shaded area created in that. So to answer your question about the additional seating, we definitely have accommodated that in this concept.
Okay. Concept 3. Concept 2. Your basic, your complex was extra hard to design. We spent a lot of time trying to figure this out, and because we're trying to keep so much of what you have so that you're at prices you can, work towards, the next concept 2 and concept 3 don't change radically. They change somewhat in their form. Here we retained your existing slides, which would save you about $300,000 versus the other slides we dropped in the other concept. And you lost your floatables, moved down to this area instead. You still kept your water walk. You have the same basic zero entry. This pool didn't change. Here we changed the form of this pool. Instead of a larger wading pool, you now have a splash pad on the back. Which, does anyone have a question what a splash pad is? Okay. It's just a flat pavement with sprays that come up through. There's no standing water. Okay.
Kids love it.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Okay. Let's go back to the other layout. So you have a little bit smaller wading pool, but you have a splash pad, takes up the space on the end. Splash pads have a lot under the ground, more underground than they have above ground. by adding this on, and we'll get into whole numbers in a little bit, but you add several $100,000 to this pool by adding the splash pad, but you're right, kids do love them. The adult pool here changed directions because we changed the layout. We also have ideas of how you could perhaps increase your concession area. This is cafe seating, which you largely have. So your flow changes a little bit, and your features change, and it's a little bit different layout. You can go to the overlay on this, Tom. Here you can see changes in the overlay. Okay. Next concept, different layouts again. It was very hard again in this to arrive at these because of keeping in place what you have. You have so much there that most pools don't. Most pools don't have, or complexes don't have four bodies of water. And yours is made even more complicated because they're all on the different levels. So to stay inside your footprint reasonably and meet the mission goals that we had, we have varying designs on these. Here you got rid of your large slide altogether. You have the fatter family type multiple person slide, and we'll get to these photographs in a minute. Splash pad on the side, and again a different configuration for your other pool. Let's go to the overlay of that. You can see the difference in the footprint again. Then go to concept 4. What we did then here is the addition of this type of, it's a wave runner pool. We got rid of your addition to this pool and replaced that with, do you want to jump to that slide? That's this type of pool added in. It's very cool. It's $1 million, so. Yeah. So these things all come with a price tag. A lot of fun, and it doesn't look like it should cost that, but it sure does. Okay, let's go to the features then, because I know you all have more specific questions and comments, so we'll try to jump ahead. We can always come back to these. We have different color palettes. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder with these things. We have a lady who's an interior designer who is very good with them, we feel, but these choices can be amended at any time. Color palette is always subject to change. Here you can see, around your waiting area, you have fencing at different places to keep the kids in place. You can have an option of deck treatments around rather than just your standard concrete decking. They're colored and they're textured. Some people call them cool deck. This is called sun deck. It's different colors, palettes, and it's very easy on your feet. Throughout the complex, we had different shade. These are shade kite type sails. You had sails over the adult pool and sails over the waiting pool. Because we actually have a lot of pools where attendance goes down when it's really hot if you don't have anywhere to get out of the sun, if it's too hot. You get a little older. I can testify that you don't want to be in the sun quite as much as you did before. So here, this is what your ramp down to your waiting pool would look like. It's beach entry. You have the different style slides and so on that would go in there. These are in your adult pool and in your larger pool. Your handicap ramps down are adjacent to your beach entry. In a wading pool, you don't have handrails. It's part of the code that wading pool does not have handrails. It's purely beach entry, and the basis is that kids want to play too much on them. It's not age appropriate. The benches that are built into some of these features have tile and separation barriers in the other pools so that you keep people more, where you don't want kids crossing over to deeper water and so on. You use these types of things. Go ahead, Tom. In the adult pool, we have a lounge shelf where this is what you would lay on. We're often asked, do people fight over these? We haven't ever had that happen. So people tend to seem to be civil, the guards and so on. You know, we always tell people you don't want to get everyone in the habit where they go there in the beginning of the day and lay their towel and they just think they own it all day long. Everyone has to be a little civil, but they work pretty well. But they're very relaxing. So this you have in the adult pool, these in-water loungers. In the waiting, okay, did I have everything on that, or?
I think so, other than
Okay.
the wall spray.
Okay, and then you have, in the adult pool, you also have wall sprays. It's relaxing to hear the water and see the movement, and it also helps churn the water, but they're decorative and they're nice, and you can walk under them if you're an adult. They're just very pleasant to be around. In your wading pool, you have a family type slide, so if you're a parent, grandparent, you can hold your toddler, go down to that slide into shallow water. Again, you're in 18 inches of water here. And all of these are actual pictures of pools that we've done. So here then you have steps down next to it, and you have benches where you can sit. You would have shade over yours. You have more wall sprays. On the beach entry, you have bubblers and play features. These are a foam rubber with a vinyl skin over them. They're very resistant. They're very hard to damage. And a lot of things for a lot of kids to play on and do. Then the lounge shelf in that pool, you sit more upright in the wading pool so that you're up watching your kids better. What we're calling your intermediate pool, your large L-shaped pool, you have these tall features in that addition area. This is that fatter slide you saw. More wall spray. These are the floatables. They come in all different sizes. They're actually hard to get on and stay on. They're a challenge. And kids love them. And adults love them too. And this is the type of slide that's an option to keep your space open. Whereas now you're losing space because everyone's discharging into the water. With this, you can discharge into your own run out. This is the water walk we were talking about that stretches that L-shaped pool. So you try to stay on these. These are what we were talking about that's tethered to the floor. They're stainless steel chains with just a clip. You just unclip them and you can move them out of the way. And then you try to hang on and make it across, and that's a lot of fun. There's a different version of it. All these things are themable. You can come up with a theme, whether it's animals or flowers or mix it up. Climbing wall from the deep well, we're keeping your diving boards and the competition style lanes. And then the flow rider, which you saw, which we wanted to throw in there if somebody had a desire for that. Again, they're really neat, but they're really expensive. Now, I'll say this though, if you went with this next to that pool versus the addition, you're probably at a net gain of about $500,000 because that addition is about $500,000. Okay, is that the last one? Then these are just some thoughts. So your concession area is very, very crammed in. It's a great concession though. We all, when we were working there, enjoyed eating there. But this was some thoughts to give it more space. And then different site considerations. Low maintenance plant barriers, retaining walls, pergola over the cafe area, different site improvements that you can have to dress things up. Do you want to go back to concept 1? The other thing behind these concepts is that you can do them in stages. I'll give you some numbers now. This pool, geez, I don't know if I can, you're asking a lot, Monica, to make me do this. This pool, okay, You're, with the bleachers, you're at about $150,000. Because you're not doing that much to that pool. If you didn't have the bleachers, you're only maybe $50,000 to increase the lanes, to do the paintings, to do the other work, and so on. So not a big investment there.
Excuse me. Since you're done your concepts, can I now ask a question about that pool you're just talking about there?
Yeah, sure.
The one area is deeper. It's deeper, so how will people be able to walk if you change the way the lanes?
From here. Well, you don't have to put the lane lines in. We're not changing the depths. Those are just lines that are painted on the floor.
Oh, okay.
So your pool, the bottom didn't change at all.
Excuse me. As a follow-up to what she just said, if you're a lap swimmer, because I just looked at all the designs, and it appears that you have the lines going the short width, not the long width that it currently goes. So if you're a lap swimmer,
On this pool-
follow
on this
those
pool?
lines, that's how you swim. You also use the flags that are overhead, which would be going the opposite direction of your lineage. So is there a reason why in all three of the proposals I just looked at, that the lineage is changing to the short width and not the long width that lap swimmers and walkers want?
On this pool.
Yes.
Well, we didn't move your original lines.
If I look at all three of these proposals, it appears that the lines are going opposite direction.
Will both lines be there? If both lines will be there, you're keeping the old lines at
They won't be down in the
Everybody used to go north to south.
I don't think we didn't move those, did we, Thomas?
It's messing with this way, it's messing with walkers
Huh?
as well.
No, I don't
Just
think.
25 meters versus 25 yards.
We are videotaping this presentation, and when we talk in our seats, the people who are going to see this video are not going to hear your questions, and it will be valuable for them to hear your questions too. So why don't we, if you have questions, I'm going to have you come up to the podium and you can take turns. So let's go ahead and do that.
Monica, could I just pass the mic to them instead of having them all go in there?
Well, it would just,
Let me go through your numbers before you do that. I'll just finish the, do you want me to finish
yes,
the numbers?
Brent can finish his presentation first.
So you have food for thought on the costs. I'll go through that. This pool, with the addition, you're at about $800,000. Okay. The slides, the two new slides, add about $300,000 to that, if you go with these slides.
Is that the 800 or is it addition to the 800?
In addition to the 800. This pool, with the site amenities, to construct new, about 600,000. This pool to construct new with the site amenities, about 550,000. With the site, with all the site work. But the idea behind some of this is that in this form of doing the work, it leaves you options. You don't have to do it all at once. This is meant to be considered kind of a master plan at the end. And again, don't get too emotional about it that these are things that are going to be done. These are ideas, and we want to hear your ideas to think them through. I just want to, before we give you the podium, I want to mention that, Thomas, go back to the existing complex. My pointer's dying, I see. The existing. These lanes run in here. Go to concept 1 now. I mean, they're still there. We didn't change them. So, and we didn't change the pool. We added these across. So you can, and they're just painted lines. So unless the staff puts the ropes in, and this was a request, actually a feature that was requested that we do, was add this ability to go this way. So you can still use it if they put the ropes this way, the way you did before. We didn't change that. I think we lost Monica.
So starting blocks and everything stay the same place for the swim meets and stuff?
Yes, and that's, I'm sorry? $550. Monica, should we do the?
We're going to do a runaround. So if people that don't feel comfortable, they're going to have to be on camera.
Okay,
So we're going to run the mic around.
okay. I'll write that.
So one of my concerns, which is why we stopped joining the pool, was coming at night, the lessons were overwhelming in all areas of the pool. So I'm concerned now that there's even less areas for the lessons. We would go to use the slides, it was closed for lessons. The intermediate pool, it was closed for half of it for lessons. So I feel like we've taken away more lesson space, which I'm thrilled that there's more stuff for the teenagers, but if we can't use them at night, they're not going to help us.
So part of the intention behind the design right now with the lap pool and the lane lines going in the direction that they are currently showing using the yards, part of the intention behind that is so that we'll be able to program the shallow end of that pool alone for swimming lessons in the evenings to allow the other spaces to remain open. That's the intention behind it. So it wouldn't take away lap lanes. It would just utilize that shallow, wider area where we could then put lessons in so that we are not impacting the rest of the pool space, because you are correct, that is something that does happen every Wednesday evening and when we first open on Saturday mornings. So that is something that we took into consideration in turning the lanes for Wednesday evenings so that with swimming lessons we would be able to have them and not take away pool space. And also making sure we still have the flags going the proper direction for lap swimming, as well as having enough lanes with the same amount, being able to put 2 or more lap swimmers per lane. They're not single lanes, having lane lines on the bottom of the pool, directional lines, as well as the directional lines for meters for our swim team.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. One is, I'm one of the non-resident Lower Makefield people, and from my standpoint, compliments of Cheryl sending on the email to me, that's really the only way some of us knew about this meeting. So I would ask that communication be to all of the pool members. I've been a member for over 5 years, so I would hope that I would receive all correspondence. Secondly, again, from a standpoint of being both a lap swimmer and a walker, because I do both, and that is the length-wise, although it seems very reasonable to you all to move it, there was some discussion about that last year. It was very negatively received by all of the lap swimmers. So my feeling is that the lap lanes should remain as they are, and because from a standpoint of being a lap swimmer, the number of times you will have to flip in comparison to what you have to do now is doubled. So it's really not a reasonable thought, and like I said, it was discussed briefly, and I thought that had been put to bed. And from the standpoint, I think that's an awful lot of expense to split the walkers and the swimmers, because there's a lot of people that adults do both walking and swimming, and with being separated from the kids, that's kind of what everybody likes.
It's interfering with the socialization.
Yeah, and she wants to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if you're separating the lap swimmers and the walkers and the exercisers, that you're interfering with adult socialization, and because those people socialize back and forth, and as was said, that Peggy said that
some people like to do both, so you would have to go from one pool to the other at diagonals in the complex. Also, what has happened to the picnic area, because I've seen that utilized quite a bit. It's not something that I use, but, okay, all right. But if you could address the separation of socialization between the adults, that's an important thing to me.
I just want to address your communication concern. This was sent to every member, so if you didn't receive it, even if it's not in your junk mail, please communicate with us, and we'll make sure that your email is correct.
Okay, let me say something about communication. When I never got a notification about joining again, and I've been a member of the pool for 30 years, and when I called about it, I was told, oh, well, we have no record of you even coming to the pool last year. And I'm sure that anybody that's here is going to laugh about that, because I was there practically every single day the pool was open. Your communication, something in your computer system, your communication is faulty.
We have a new communication system. It's called Constant Contact, so your emails will look differently when they come through. This was in the paper. It was on social media. We announced it in a number. I'm just saying, but your individual concern can come to me separately if you have an individual concern about communication.
I was just dismissed anyway.
Yes.
Okay, he had his hand up next.
Thanks. First of all, I want to say I commend you guys for doing this, for trying to make our pool better. So I want to start from that point. I want to tell you something going on with the school board right now, which is clearly a problem with you as well. The school board wants to spend $220 million to redo our schools. They're not starting that without now setting up a community team that's going to be like an advisory board to them from the start of the RFP all the way through. Because when you get to these stages, you've really missed the opportunity for the community to put a lot more input in, because you've already got roughed out design, and it costs more to change design. That's just one. Two, I think communication's great. The things that I would ask of you is, this is $2.3 million if we go all in, right? Something like that. We had problems last year with the cleanliness of the bathrooms and the pool. So even though we build a shiny new pool, are we also addressing the management of the pool? Because that's part of what turned people away from the pool, not just the fact that there's not new slides. Okay, hang on. We were just overcrowding. Quick story on the school. The school built a stadium for 6,000 people. It applies to this if you give me a second. I'm talking about this. They built a stadium for 6,000 people that they use twice a year. What's the percentage of times we reach capacity that we're going to, and the times that we're not, so we know when we're investing how often we're going to reach capacity with the new pool?
You're at your capacity
now
and over a significant amount of time. Half of the time.
50% of the time. Okay, great. Thank you.
I just want to address your financial concerns. No taxpayer money goes to any of this infrastructure. It's all pool revenue. We don't use any taxpayer money on the pool. We have a capital reserve fund. We have a capital reserve fund for these type of projects. This will be something that we work on over time. It's not something that we would do all at once. It's something that will be very well thought out and planned for, but we do not use taxpayer money on the pools at this time, not at all.
Sorry, I'm splitting the sides.
Thank you. So first of all, I just want to say I've also been a member of the pool for like 30 years. It's fantastic. It is an asset to our community. Absolutely wonderful, okay? So keep it up. I know there are issues all the time, but it's fantastic. I am a lap swimmerish type person now. I've gone the whole gamut from being single to having little kids to bigger kids to teenagers that didn't want to go to adult children that are gone. So now I'm back to lap swimming. But again, the facility's great. Regarding the lap swimming, I don't think it's going to change anything, but possibly give us slightly more lanes. It's just there might be some confusion. You're 25 yards versus 25 meters, so if you go the other way, you'll have more lanes, but you'll swim 25 meters instead of 25 yards. No, not at all. No, okay. Anyway, I think there's some confusion, that's all I was going to say there. The one request I would have, if I could, is that what I've seen over the years is there are more, I'll say adults, but I really mean from like 18-year-olds and up that are not swim team people that want to use the facility for exercise. And it's more and more, and it's a good thing. It's like a wonderful thing. So I would just ask that if that could be taken into consideration, because currently, even when you have the lanes set up, as we said before, multiple lanes are used for other activities, whether it's lessons or something. And in the evenings, I see it actually getting fairly crowded with people in 2 lanes and then people waiting and so forth. So it's another great benefit of the pool is people are using it for more and more exercise. There's more adults there. So if you would just think about that as you go through your designs. And I'll just add one thing too also is, you made comments about the sails that are above in some cases. I mean, sun is an issue, so that lap pool and the other pools, if you are swimming a lot, you are out in the sun a lot. So it is just, if there's something that can be done about that, that would be great. Does that make sense?
Hold on.
In that pool,
I
yeah.
won't hear your answer. Thank you. Hold on.
We could do something about shade in that area. You're trying with, if you're holding your competitions there, we just have to try to do it in a way that stays out of the way of that. And here there are sails actually shade over the bleachers, but you could have more shade in the areas around there as well. Yes. Yes.
Okay. One more on this side, then I'll go back to that side.
When would construction be during the off-season? When the pool closes, will these updates be done?
Yeah, typically you would do this in the off-season. You know, if you did a piece at a time, you could easily do it in the off-season. If you tried to do it all at once, honestly, you'd have a chance that you'd lose the season because it's a lot of construction to do all at once.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, I may have misunderstood, but there is a cost to the lap pool. I don't understand why there would be any cost to the lap pool at all other than buying new lane lines and maybe flags. That would be my first question, because you're not doing anything to the pool that I know of. And my second question is, I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but we're putting all this stuff in for little kids. We've been members since day one of this pool. Kids came, they played, they made up games, they had a good time. I don't understand why we need to have all of these play things for kids that are interrupting with what adults want to do or teenagers would want to do at the time.
The only real things that we're putting in for what I would call kids is this pool. All of these things are for young adults through adults. You'd be amazed how, and when I was growing up, that was true. You only had the normal pool with nothing in it, and you learned how to play with that. But the expectation of the public and the things that are available is different today. I mean, the old style pool is just a black and white TV set now. Nobody wants to go there.
I love black and white TV.
Yeah, if you're a classic movie fan, yes, that's true. But it's really for young adults through adults, all these other features, and that's.
We're having 10 people, I left. It'll bring back membership.
So the comment that was just made was perhaps with the new equipment and play features added, it would increase certain demographics of membership because people didn't have things for that age group to do. So just so people know all the information on the video.
And to your point, it is standard. He's right. It's, we moved down to Dallas for 2 years, then back up here. And the pool, the facilities down there, it's ridiculous compared to here. Not that there's anything matter with the pools, it's just way different.
I think it's a great idea that you've gone out and done this study, but I do have a couple questions. I understand the seating at the lap pool. Does that eliminate then the lounge sitting? If there's, what are they called, bleachers? That won't impact?
The bleachers on the left-hand side of things.
Okay.
Are they permanent?
They just moved the lounges to there.
You can get either or.
Because that's where tables and chairs are now.
That are used on the other side.
You can get rollaway bleachers, if that's the choice, yes. Everything else around there is that type of seating, but there, with the competition, and that was one of the, you know, we did interviews with the staff and so on, and a lot of these is not just what our thoughts were, but the day-to-day problems that during a competition you don't have bleachers, so that was put in there as an option. They could be a rollaway, though.
I question the whole issue of having bleachers because we have bleachers. When my daughter was on the swim team, when my daughter was a guard there, during the swim meet, there were bleachers. Rollaway bleachers were installed. I believe they were 4 rows high, and they went the whole length of the pool.
Yeah.
Are we saying that those are
We
no
did have
longer
bleachers.
available?
We actually pull those bleachers from other facilities to be able to accommodate swim meets right now. So we don't have them assigned specifically to pool.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
the question, but I definitely recall bleachers.
There were bleachers. You are not mistaking in that. Yes.
Okay, you had another question.
Yeah, I
You know, I know. It's-
I like the idea of some sort of handicap access. This has been something that's, I was very concerned about in the last 25, 30 years. I've been a member since '81, and we lack that. And I've seen parents have to dump their children into the pool from a wheelchair. And that just breaks your heart. So I'm glad to see that somewhere in there, there'll be better handicap accessibility. My concern with a middle pool, which I call the middle pool, nope, to the right, is that pool was, the intent, I thought, of that pool, of the water level, was for that swimmer that was no longer in the wading pool, obviously, but not quite ready for the depth of the Olympic pool. And I'm not sure that that pool would still address that need for that, I'm going to say the younger swimmer, not quite ready to really take off into the deeper water.
This pool here, or this addition actually goes then from 0 to 3 feet, which is, your current one is to 4 feet, correct, Thomas?
Correct. But how big is that?
I don't know that I have a square footage to give you to compare. It's not quite as big, but it's meant to somewhat compensate. It's that intermediate type depth that you would have that
But
area.
that intermediate pool, I observe it as being heavily used. For many, not only for the kids swimming, but
Square
they're,
foot of any pool.
yeah, it's very, very busy.
Yeah.
And then if,
And
I'm sorry.
And the theory is that you're going to disperse those people to these other areas now. Because don't forget, the usage pattern is going to change. We didn't feel that we took anything away that we didn't give them somewhere else to go, was at least the idea behind it.
In the lap pool, then would you be making that, where the steps come in, that is now kind of
Here?
handicap accessible? Will you be making that like the walking lane?
I'll let Jackie answer that. That's the
And if
use.
so, what are you going to do when you want to do your lessons? It's just, I'm not arguing, I'm just asking.
It's gone.
So to answer that question, the walking lane would not be where the steps are. That would still be open, just like it shows in the diagram.
Would you put it to the 5 feet?
I would put it in the first set of lap lanes. So it would never be taken away, even if there are lessons.
Okay.
Nope, it would still remain.
How would they access it, though, if there's
We would have to, there are logistical things we would have to figure out.
First off, thank you very much for the opportunity. I do appreciate what you're trying to do here in this feasibility study, and you're looking at more long-term. But I do have one question, maybe for the Parks Department. What we're talking here, and you mentioned in your presentation, you were constrained on the limits. Is it reasonable or unreasonable to assume that you could expand the property of the pool? I'm thinking specifically of that one baseball field in the back. Not that I'm advocating that we do that. What I'm saying is if you're looking at a really long-term plan, this sounds something that it's going to be good for like 5 years. 5 years is not long-term. I'm looking more like a plan over a 5, 10-year, 15-year period. You have one baseball field back there, and yes, it is used during the competition, the girls' competition, but past that, it's not used that much. And I was wondering if there's consideration of maybe expanding the footprint so that you relieve the constraint on the current footprint that this gentleman was talking about.
And by constraint, I didn't just mean the footprint, I meant trying to reuse your infrastructure. The constraint being that the more we build you, the more it costs. The further you expand out in the property, we viewed this as much more than a 5-year lifespan. But the further out you go, the further away you get from the bathrooms, the further you get away from the concession stands and so on. And we were thinking that we had enough space, but it was also a puzzle to fit it all together at the same time. But
like
that
I
was
said, expand the footprint if it's reasonable and the township were to think about something like that. It might create opportunities that don't necessarily exist now.
You have to be very careful. There's some PAA folks in the crowd here.
I'm thinking out loud from the point of view of long-term planning. Okay?
Right.
And I'm not, as I said, it would take a long-term, it would be a serious conversation and consideration, but it is something that should be at least thought of. And I don't know if anybody has really thought about that because I didn't hear that.
I'll have to tell you, that field is used more than you might realize that it's used. And I think that if we were to take that field away, then we'd have to come up with another creative solution in the township for PAA to be able to be accommodated.
Fine answer, I just wanted to know if it was being thought of.
We are doing yes, we are doing a full long-term plan, hopefully here in the near future for the park in general. That could be something that could be incorporated potentially. I'm not sure if it's going to be considered or not, but now we know it's a concern. And it is something that we had at one time thought about. It has been mentioned by 1 or 2 people. But, you know, it'd be something that we'd have to...
They don't exist anymore because they were in the room with other baseball...
No. Sure.
That idea was explored in the early 90s when they were getting ready to build. That idea was explored in the early 90s when they were getting ready to...
Into the mic if you want to be
Okay,
heard.
sorry. Was explored in the early 90s when the lap pool was being under consideration and being built. And at that time, it was determined that because of the lack of fields, that you couldn't go into it. And I think there were other issues. I don't know if there's a stream back there or what. There's something else back there that impacts that. And it's yeah. So.
We didn't feel we couldn't accomplish our mission in the footprint. It was just complex. So we never really asked to go, oh, jeez, being filmed. So we thought we were okay in there. If we really accomplished our mission, that's up to all of you, but we felt we were pulling it off inside there.
Hold on, the man in the plaid has had his hand up for quite a while.
I really have two questions, I guess. When the swim teams meet, and in my experience in the last 10 years has been there Tuesdays and Thursday evenings, you basically lose that pool from about 4:30 for the rest of the night. So when we're doing all this discussion about lap lanes and all that stuff, we're talking about 2 days that we can't use it now. So are we, and you haven't really given them any other place to go. So you can move us, the adults, to someplace, but I don't think you've addressed you've given the people some bleachers, which is helpful to them, and that means they don't go into the big pool area. But my second question is, I'm an avid walker, and it looks like you've put the walking lane pretty close to the deepest end of the current lap pool, which will not be necessarily amenable to a lot of my fellow walkers. So,
That would be the walking area.
is it where that blue line is?
No, that's the walking lane, which is your shallow end.
Oh, okay, the shallow end, okay.
Adult pool is 3'6", so it can also be utilized for the...
Yeah, I have no objection to being moved to a totally different location, as long as you give the 50 or so of us that like to walk a place to be. So.
This pool is 3'6", it has stair entrances, you could use...
So part of the feedback right now is to relocate some of the walking over to the adult pool in a 3'6" area to accommodate multiple people who are looking to walk at once instead of the constraints of inside of a lane line. The additional answer to the first question is that we will still put lap lanes into the Olympic pool. If we have a swim meet and we need a few lanes for swimming, just like we did last summer and every summer previous to that, we do add those lanes by closing a diving board and relocating the lane lines into that pool. So that won't change our capabilities. Our new gutter system still allows for the same flexibility in how we program in the pool.
A simple thing that I've noticed, I've been a member for 25 years. I don't feel we have enough tables and umbrellas for people. And I think that would be a simple thing, because you're out in the sun, and unless you have a small child in the intermediate area where there's a nice covering, you're out in the sun. And I thought that would be not an expensive addition, that would be very helpful.
And it's not, and that is a big part. We didn't get it, in this phase, we didn't get into where we're, counting tables and umbrellas, but we gave you more deck space, so you would have the potential to add those in.
Okay, coming. Coming your way. Thank you.
I have a few logistical questions. Around the adult pool, in the grass area, today is a lot of trees, mostly that are outside the fence. Will those trees have to come down because, for the sun to get in, or are you thinking to leave those?
Outside the fence?
Yeah, it's kind of like the fence. There's right in that area, there's heavy shading from big trees. Would your thinking be that pool, that area will get exposed to sun if it's not today? Sorry. I'll stand next to you. I got a bunch of quick ones like that.
I think I honestly don't know. We might have to take some down. You could probably leave some there and probably replant. At this point, because we were just doing layouts and concepts, which trees and so on, and how much sunlight you want to come in and so on. I'm a tree lover too, but we'd have to consider that on each basis.
Is that area still going to be elevated? Is that wall that currently protects the kiddie pool, is that going to come down? Same question in the center pool going to the L. There's I know you said that you're going to turn that to, you're going to pave that, but are you regrading? And then same question on grading conceptually, are you regrading back where the new picnic area is? Again, because like, it's hilly. So yeah, I'm just curious about regrading across the
You're still on different levels, but there's regrading and recontouring going on everywhere around them. Jackie, where do you want to go next? I'm not keeping track of who's next.
I'm just alternating.
Hi, I have two questions and a comment. The first question is, as a little old lady who is always freezing her ass off when she's trying to get her laps in, are you going to fix the heater in the big pool? And the second question is, what is this going to do to our membership fees? And the comment is, as a little old lady who's always freezing her ass off, please don't cover the pools, I need the sun.
Membership fees?
I don't know what it's going to do, your membership fees. Monica is probably the financial wizard, but she hasn't really had time to process this either. And again, it can be done in a phased approach if they decide, so she has some options there. The shade is in spots, so that you have a place to retreat to if you want to, but you can certainly be in the sun as much as you want to.
In the pool. I want sun in the pool.
Well, you have lots of sun in the pool. As long as the sun rises, you got sun in the pool.
Oh, do you want to say something?
For the record, the heater is fixed. Okay. Go ahead, do your thing.
Just so everyone knows, I'm going to everyone who hasn't had a chance before I go back to people who have already had a chance.
I have a question about that adult pool, the new one. You said it's only 3 feet, 6? That isn't even deep enough to tread. And I'm one of those who will, if all the lap lanes are filled, I will go look for a spot to tread. And I couldn't even tread in that pool. And it seems to me walkers would get tired going in that small space. That doesn't seem a good use of another pool to me. I think we need more exercise space.
Still utilize this corner is 7 feet, this end is 6 feet, so treading could occur in that intermediate pool yet as we possibly do now.
Yes, and which end?
So what was just said to us is that you now have multiple options of where to go. Other than in the adult pool, you would need to use one of the other areas where there is deeper space, is what was just repeated.
Using that, I frequently use the meter pool, and I also like swimming the 50-meter course, and no one's going to quickly pop those extras out. I mean, I can see if the swim team is there, they'll take the time to pop them out, but that's not the sort of thing you can remove, like, oh, quick, could you do that? I'm here for 30 minutes.
Well, to answer your last question first, that's why these things are presented and choices, you know, the water walk, the floatables and so on in the long lanes there, you would have the option under these concepts not to even install them, period, if they felt they were going to be constantly in the way. The 3'6" in the adult pool is because that's a common lounging depth, and most fitness classes want to use that depth. So it wasn't really made to be for treading, but we kept all the deep water everywhere else you had.
I also want to commend the township. You all have just a jewel here with all the recreational facilities you have, and I'm grateful that several years ago, membership was opened up to folks who don't live in LMT, and I love being a member here. Just a couple thoughts, what some of the other folks said before me. I'm a big proponent of keeping the direction of swim as it currently is in the other pool, I call it the lap pool. I think even though it's maybe just a 6-foot difference if you're swimming across the pool, when you swim maybe as much as I do or some other folks do, you're adding significant laps, and I don't know, it's just a little difficult. The other thing is, if the lanes are in fact changed, the direction of swim, I don't think it's my imagination, but when the lanes are put up in the diving pool for lap swimmers to swim, they seem like they're substantially narrower than they are in the other pool when we're swimming the long way. So if you are going to switch the direction of swim, if you can ensure that the lanes are wide enough, as wide as they are now, just to allow people to pass each other safely, that would be, I think, a good idea. Two other quick thoughts is, I was present last season when a parent would not be reasonable and take their child out of the adult swimming lanes, and it was quite something. She would not back down. So if we could maybe get those rules maybe put in writing. I looked, and I don't think they are in writing. I looked today before the meeting, and I couldn't find it, that the lap lanes are for whoever you want it to be for, 16 and above or whatever. So the rules can be enforced. The guards feel that they have some teeth that they can say to the parent, these are the rules. And the only other thing I'd like to say is, I think some of these ideas are great, but I'm just wondering if some of these other water features might increase the liability insurance of the township. Thank you.
So as far as the lap lane rules are concerned, that is something that we are actively correcting for this opening season. We're working on that now. Signage, big signs will go up, as well as rules posted. That is something that I am working with Lynn, the operations person, on. So we will have additional signage, so there is no gray area this year. Sure.
Hi. So my recollection, we've had many decades of enjoying the pool, but my recollection is that the current baby pool has like fencing around it so that toddlers won't stray into some other pool if they're not being watched. So will that new baby pool area be secured to prevent anything like that from happening? That's all enclosed, okay. So that was my first question. Also, I think there's one person from the swim team board here, but I think if they haven't been consulted, they might have opinions about the long course pool and the lanes and all that, so they have been, okay. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going over here. Go ahead, since it was directed at swim team, then I'll give it to you guys.
So I am on the swim team board, so I have a vested interest in what's going on here. First of all, I would like to commend everybody for what they're doing with this pool. I think it's great that they're trying to do some, keep the pool up to date, make some changes. I just wanted to address the concerns about changing the lanes the other way. Just so you know, collegiate swimming and high school swimming are all in yards. So my son yesterday swam 14,000 yards in the high school pool for practice. Go in that direction. So you're not doing more flip turns. It's not going to be a major change for you. So I just wanted to make sure that was addressed. But yeah, but I just commend everybody. I love some of these changes, and I look forward to being a part of this.
What about losing that 50 meter for long course? Is that a...
Well, you're not losing it.
No, but where are you going to put them if they've got things in there?
So the question is the additional optional water features that are added to the Olympic pool, and if the swim team has a concern about those being in there.
Well, so my question is, will we still accommodate 8 lanes going meters for the swim team, for the swim meets? There will still be 8 lanes?
Oh, yeah. She's talking about the
I'm talking about the long...
Oh, the long course pool.
You're going to lose that. The floaty things in there. She's concerned
And
they're
that's-
in the way.
Yeah, but they can't take those out every day.
They're
I don't
optional,
think
though.
they can take them out every day.
So we do long course practices in the early morning, and I don't know, will they be movable so that the long course kids, so, what's that?
You can move it.
In my opinion, before we made a decision on anything, we would take all of that into consideration, because if it is challenging to relocate every morning for a 6 a.m. long course practice, which is what time they come in currently, then it would probably not be an option that we would opt for if it's a challenge to move daily. So that's something we'd have to consult with in the future.
You also said we're going to lose 2 lanes in the long course.
If they added that other end, yeah.
First, I want to say I'm encouraged by some of these changes. I know there's been a lot of negative feedback, but I think some of them are great. Some of them, like the wave rider, I don't think we need. But I know one of the ideas will be to add membership, or because we'll have to pay for some of this. Sometimes the parking gets overcrowded. Is that considered in the feasibility study?
It will be. Until we know what choices you make, we don't know how far to expand it. But it would definitely be part of it, yes.
First of all, I'd like to say about moving the pavilions closer to the center of the pool area. I really like that, because if you ever throw in a party there, you kind of got to leave all your stuff at the pavilion, which is away from where all the action's going on. So you can't really keep an eye, you can't have your, whatever food you brought or party, and so I like that idea. And as far as the rope walk in the middle of the big pool, maybe could that get moved in front of the diving board area to where it's still far enough away from the diving boards to be at a safe distance? Is that another?
The rope.
Then you could still have the rope walk, then you can still have your long lane?
Well, not really, unfortunately, because if you look at that rope walk on the left-hand side of it, you see kind of the orange square. That's a piece you have to build into the pool to accommodate that, because they only go so long. So, yeah, they're only made so long. So, and again, that's, these things are put in there as choices. There's so much interest in lap swimming and walking that it may be the choice to not have those, period, or relocate the floatables down along the side where don't have to be moved and get rid of the water walk altogether. That's certainly an option.
Okay, who else? 2 more, and then I'll be back over here.
Hi. Hi. Again, back to the lap pool. I am wondering what the restrictions are going to be for that lap pool. Is it going to be adults only? Is it going to be 16 and above? We have a granddaughter who needs a little extra care that doesn't necessarily need to be in the ADA pool, but she does need to have an adult help her. My daughter was using the the lap pool with her and got into a confrontation with someone telling her to get out of the pool. I mean, she paid her membership as much as everybody else did. She shouldn't have been told to leave. I'm wondering if there could be something maybe they were a special band that they're allowed to be there, something like that. She also wears appliances on her body that to be in the larger pools with the overactive kids could rip them off of her body and potentially be a problem. That's all.
So to answer the question, we are in the process, the operations manager and myself and Monica, the Parks and Rec director, we are in the process of streamlining and creating all of those rules for the lap pool. We have not gotten anything finalized yet, and so that is something that will come out prior to the pool opening, and there will be structured rules for how the pool is used, and then staff training on how it's enforced. So that is something I don't have any answers for you right now.
My question's also on
Go ahead.
the lap pool. It's a quick one.
Okay, just a quick, I would be glad at any time to address any lap pool rule issues. It doesn't have to happen in public forum. I'm open anytime. You can email, you can call me. When you have a specific thing that I don't know about, that is a little upsetting to me. I really, it's important to me to keep in the loop. So if you have concerns, always I'm available. My card's out front.
Thank you.
So this is kind of a general thing, but also specific. Just in general on rules, there also needs to be some common sense applied to rules, which I saw lacking. I'll give you an example. You had a kid's lap, a kid's lane,
There were adults in the kids' lane. The rest of the lanes were empty, and my daughter was swimming, and a lifeguard threw her out, and she won't go back into the lap lanes anymore. So it's nice that we have rules, but you also have to in life apply common sense. The same way a police officer pulls you over sometimes speeding and says, just don't do it again and on your way. And sometimes they write you a ticket, right? There's common sense to it. So I just want to make sure that that's applied and also trained. Because if adults are in the kids, and then the kids should be able to go in the adult, there has to be like, because I had asked, can the adult be removed from the kids lane, and they refused to do it. So it just, that's all.
I think it all just goes back to training, right? We
Yep.
just need to work better on our training. We need to improve. All right.
Did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, a couple of comments. First of all, I really like some of the features of all of the concepts, and I think a couple of key points that are being overshadowed is the fact that we do need to do maintenance and upgrades, not only just to keep the facility at the level we already enjoy, but to keep it relevant, because as a father of young children right now, my wife and I are always evaluating the best experiences that we can give our children, and a simple box of water, is not likely sufficient, as opposed to an area with a lot of amenities focused at different skill levels. So that's the first one. Second, I really like the intermediate pool being moved to the top of the L-shaped Olympic pool. I definitely think that's probably would have much greater utilization than the Wave Rider. I know that there was one comment. I mean, that's super cool. I would like it, and I think my kids would love to watch me fall on it, but I just think that the pool itself would get much greater usage, as well as moving at least the tall twisty slide off of dumping into the pool, which does bring up, I know there was one other comment about liability insurance, and I do wonder if our insurance carrier has been looped in. If not, if they might have thoughts on that. You don't need to address that question right here, just if you've done it or not, and if you haven't, I recommend it. And then this is a question, and that is, I know people don't want to think about revenue generating, but I see opportunities here to increase the pool's revenue beyond just the base membership fee we pay, including maybe renting out the new event pavilions that are proposed at the top, or better concessions that might, bring in a higher rate. The goal there is not to bleed people of money. The goal is to keep the membership dues low by finding alternative sources of revenue from people who are happy to pay it. Again, as a father of children, we're always looking for a spot to host a party. So just food for thought there. And last point, as a father, I really like the comments that all the lap swimmers are bringing to the table, but there is a large constituency beyond the lap swimmers that are not able to be here tonight. My wife thought it was really important that one of us be here, but there's a lot of other parents that were not able to be here. So I just like to note that there are a lot of other voices than just the lap swimmers. So thank you.
Yes, I would love for you to.
Thank you for the positive response. And liability-wise, you're really not
Not a big.
these are common things today.
I think I looked at the pool budget, liability in general is really low, like $3 to $4 grand a year or something like that, right?
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
If you look at this budget, it shows you all the costs for all that.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And just to, continue on about insurance, we continuously do walk-arounds with our insurer, so they do full risk assessments for us every year. We made some changes this year based on the walkthrough last year. We made some changes last year based on the walkthrough last year. So I just want to let you know that's something that's very important to us. Safety is very important.
Yes, before I brought up the fact that you were separating the adults so that it would be interfering with the socialization of the adults, and I didn't hear any response from you or comment on that. So it is a concern, I think, for the adults who are members.
I don't know how you socialize now, so it's hard to answer that, but I mean, you still got, in my view, I don't know who you sit with or where you sit to talk to them.
Because you have people that swim laps, people that exercise, and you're separating them. You're having an adult pool at a complete diagonal from the lap pool, and they're all adults, and they're socializing like they're, people that swim laps come over into the walk lane and tread water after they've swum laps, and they talk with the people who are using walk lanes and treading water and exercising.
So you don't want
They're friends, so you're separating them.
Because that's what we're doing. Right now, we don't have an adult pool.
Separating
You
them.
don't want to add it?
You're separating them as far apart as
Let's take the adult
possible.
pool out so we
Not
don't.
on the lap pool, they're not. On the lap pool, they're still, that
I know, but you're
section is still walking.
separating the two pools, completely diagonal.
So I'm not arguing either which way. What I'm seeing is it's like the NAC. The NAC has like an adults only area. I see them trying to mirror that, that's all.
Which is great. A lot of people
But
love it.
you're,
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
but you're separating the socialization of people who want to swim laps and the people who are using the adult pool. You're separating them. They're not.
I don't think the intention is to separate anyone. I think the intention is to provide additional space for more opportunity. So depending on what's going on, you would be able to have someone swimming laps, people down there by the lap pool, as well as perhaps a fitness class going on for adults up in the adult pool as well, all simultaneously. So it's actually increasing the programmability as well as additional space to sit during operational hours, as well as improving the amount of space for swim team and bleacher sitting when we have swim meets. So it's a combination of use.
You're also trying to say, for adults that want to have a membership at the pool and don't want to be near kids splashing around, you're providing an opportunity for older people that are done with kids that want a place to sit, or they're a couple with no kids, which is pretty common nowadays. That's all. They can still, you can walk into there.
I know you can, but they're separated. They're as far apart from one another.
But some want to be separated.
You can hang out wherever you want to hang out.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. My only other question, and again, I am not a Lower Makefield resident, so I appreciate the fact that we can be members, is kind of twofold. This was the first meeting that I've heard of, and you said this has been going on for 3 years. Are the drawings going to be published? I thought someone said 2017.
That was the beginning conversation of starting to figure out what they were doing.
Okay, so my question is, there's 3 different versions that have been posted, and as one gentleman said, a number of people weren't able to come. Are those, I just looked at the Lower Makefield Pool site, and I don't see any of the drawings posted. And secondly, before all of this is finalized, and maybe have additional meetings, but maybe be a little more specific about what the topics are going to be about so that people understand. When I saw the email or when Cheryl forwarded it to me, I didn't even understand what it was about, and I know a lot of people call it the township, so.
So to answer that, this was the first unveiling. Right now, I'm the pool manager and I haven't seen it till tonight. It is being recorded. We did get a video camera, so we are recording it so that we are able to show anyone who is not here. But this is the very first time that we are seeing it collectively as a whole. So the intention tonight was for that others in the community, everyone could see what we are working all towards, ideas on how to continue to grow and meet all the different demographics that we have, as well as bring in more people that are in our local community that might want to be part of what we have here as well. So this is literally the first very beginning stage, my first time seeing it as well. So this is the start, but instead of us looking at it on our own, we were fortunate enough that we were able to bring a group together to share all at once.
So if you posted the drawings, now that this has been presented.
I'm sure they will be.
Posted the drawings and then gave people a venue to, a method whether it be a box or something like that, to comment, so you get additional comments.
I'm sure
from the
she's got
full
something
community.
planned.
And I'll just say, it's the same problem at the school board, because I'm involved with that as well. If an email would have gone out, and this is what the email said, it said that we are looking at improving the pool and making changes that would be better for the community. We have put out an RFP, and that RFP has been, we have picked someone, and here's what we're talking about tonight. That eliminates so many problems, because we don't know any of the background, and we're just told changes are happening. That's it, and it's the same problem with government in general. They don't tell you that they've already gotten somewhere down the road, and then everyone's in an uproar. So maybe that is brilliant, and that's the same thing I just presented to the school board, is could we come in earlier in the process so people don't freak out? That's all.
As far as correctly, it was the second Tuesday of every month at 7:30. It's in the township building. I'm there, I'll see it. I'm there. Come on, we love to have it. Usually when we have these meetings where we talk about approving these, nobody's there, but we'd love to have you come.
They are public meetings that are advertised.
I know, the same thing, and the school board says the same thing, no one shows up. It's difficult, because if you think about it as a citizen, I care about our parks, I care about our schools, right? I'd have to be at so many meetings a week at night, it's not possible. So it's rough. That's why electronically, if more can be done to be more transparent, it helps, I think, the process.
And I'll tell you, as a township, we have improved with communications over the last, so you probably will see a lot more than you ever have.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we're getting better, absolutely.
Yeah, we're getting better. All right, is that it for questions today? I want to thank you all so very much for being here. I do have one big announcement that I want to let you know. I know this was asked earlier and I didn't address it. Bathrooms. We are addressing the bathrooms. We're changing the way we do our regular daily maintenance. We also have hired someone to come in once a week to do a deep clean. In addition